The last 5 minutes of your day before you enter into your sleep state are the most important 5 minutes of your day if you're going to begin living a wishes-fulfilled life. In this brief portion of your day, you're going to tell your subconscious mind how you feel and what wishes God, the universal one subconscious mind, is to fulfill upon awakening from your deep slumber. This 5-minute segment of time in your bed, about to enter into your subconscious and marinate for the next 8 hours or so, is the most crucial segment of your entire 24-hour day. You can use this time in one of two ways. Let me explain them both to you, and then you can decide which one you choose to adopt for yourself, keeping in mind that what you impress upon your subconscious mind is what the universal one subconscious mind will offer you in your waking hours. Your subconscious mind is indifferent to what you want or what is best for you. It cannot make a distinction between what you are feeling as a result of all that happens to you throughout your waking hours, or what you feel as a result of what you are imagining for yourself as having already transpired while you are in bed preparing to doze off to sleep. Number 1, choosing to review the day's frustrations and disappointments. As you lie in bed, you can use this time prior to entering your subconscious mind to review everything that transpired throughout the day that caused you to feel unhappy, dejected, frustrated, angry, and so on. You can think sad thoughts about all of the people who disappointed you and review in your imagination via your inner dialogue with yourself how unhappy all of that made you. You can spend these critical moments worrying about all of the things that didn't work out the way you wanted them to, and projecting onto your subconscious mind evidence for things continuing to transpire in the same way that they always have. You can go over the argument you had with others and conclude that these people really do make you unhappy. You can use your mind to relive how fearful you are that things are not going to improve. You can even predict that a great calamity is about to befall you and your family, and there's nothing to be done to stave it off. You can picture in your mind the worst possible outcome concerning your own health or the health of a loved one. You can imagine yourself filing for bankruptcy or not getting the job you desire, or a natural disaster striking you, or you feeling even sicker when you awaken. The potential disasters that you can entertain with your thoughts as you prepare to go to sleep could fill the next 100 or so pages of this book I'm reading. Whatever you opt for, such as these examples of thoughts that make you feel bad, is a choice to send those messages to your subconscious just as you are about to go to sleep. In effect, you are imprinting your subconscious mind with, I am unhappy, I am frustrated, I am pessimistic, I am afraid, and so on. Your subconscious mind, unable to distinguish between what you are telling it through your pre-sleep conditioning ritual and what is actually happening in your everyday world, says to you, okay, I've got it. I got it. Your thoughts are on what you do not want and what you despise, and your feelings in your body bring you worry, fear, anxiety, hate, sadness, and the like. Your subconscious mind responds with no desire to change your conscious waking state because it only reacts to what you place there. So it will proceed to offer you experiences from the universal one subconscious mind that aligns with what you've programmed it to do. If you decide you do not want to go to sleep with the first choice in your consciousness, you can develop a new habit for your habitual mind to latch onto. You do have an alternative. Those last 5 minutes of the day are your 5 minutes, and they're yours alone. Consider the second option, using your last waking moments before sleep, programming your subconscious mind in a new way. And this is the second choice, number 2. Choosing to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. As you lie in bed, feeling drowsy and knowing that you're about to go to sleep, where your subconscious mind is most at home, use these final pre-slumber moments to align with your source of being and become a wishes-fulfilled spiritual being. In these pre-sleep moments, you can program your subconscious mind to automatically present you with fulfilled wishes. These last 5 minutes awake, then, are your final pep talk to your subconscious mind. You want to focus on assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled that you've placed into your imagination. Here's what Neville offers on this topic. It may be the most valuable information you've ever received in your life. Quote, the feeling which comes in response to the question, how would I feel were my wish realized, is the feeling which should monopolize and immobilize your attention as you relax into sleep. You must be in the consciousness of being or having that which you want to be or have done before you drop off to sleep." Unquote. So this is what you must ask yourself as you get closer and closer to dropping off into the unconsciousness of sleep. If my wishes were realized, how would it feel right here, right now in my body? Stay with that thought until you begin to feel your body shift into what that feels like. At first, you will be calling upon your ego, which believes that it is separate from God or the universal source of all. And an inner voice will say, "This is silly. I am sick, I am sore, I am dying, and I am only fooling myself." So simply dismiss these mind viruses and conditioned memes, since you are free to use these 5 minutes in any way that you choose. Repeat a new I am that shifts you to the state of the realized wish. Repeatedly tell yourself that I am God in action, and immediately check in with your body to feel the shift from fear and anxiety to peace, love, and contentment. After a little practice, you will find this repeating I am in your mind begins to impact how you are feeling. Sensations of worry and pain slowly dissolve as you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. And it is at this point that you allow yourself to drop off to sleep. Use these precious pre-sleep moments to assume the feeling in your body of whatever wishes you desire as already fulfilled. You could contemplate my favorite quotation from Saint Germain in the I Am Discourses. Quote, "I want so much to have you feel that you are the only authority in this world, or any other. So far as your world is concerned, do not ever fear that the perfecting of your world is going to disfigure anyone else's world, so long as your intent is not to harm anyone. It does not matter what the world about you says, or how much they try to intrude upon you their doubts, their fears, and their limitations. You are the supreme authority in your world, and all you have to do is say, when you are beset by these conditions, I am the mighty magic circle of protection about me that is invincible and repels from me every discordant thought and element which seeks to find entrances or intrude itself. I am the perfection of my world, and it is self-sustained." Unquote.
Being, to me, means seeing the greatness and the uniqueness in you and never letting anybody else convince you to the contrary. When people ask me, come on, you're always talking about being up and you're always positive and so on, you mean to tell me that you're always that way? I say, yeah, I really am. And it isn't because I'm out there doing something in an artificial way. It's an authentic response to my having gotten the junk out of me. And the junk is the way that I used to think, the way that I used to think. Think for a moment, if you can visualize right here, a clock, a big clock. And the hands on the clock go from 1 to 12. The clock starts right out here with the minute hand, and it goes over towards the 3, the hour hand, minute hand. And that's the time in your life when you are moving away from yourself, from your true self. That's the time when you are trying to put other people down, trying to prove that you're bigger or better than somebody else, trying to make yourself right all the time, as opposed to being with somebody else. It's like you're moving away, and a lot of people spend a lot of time moving away from their true self, because your true self is this little child, is this beautiful little child inside of you that has only love and acceptance for everything in the world, and no dis-ease, no absence of ease. You move away towards the 3, and then you move down here this way, and you're still moving away from yourself until you hit the 6. The 6 is the point in your life, symbolically, metaphorically here, when you are the furthest away from yourself that you can be. It's the low point in your life. It's the point where many people break down, or many people break down their relationships, or they feel full of despair, they feel full of hatred, whatever it may be, and a lot of people die then. A lot of people are put into hospitals then. A lot of people have to really seek out therapy then, and so on. And when you're at that 6. There's another part of the clock that goes from 6 to 12 that I think of as living in the light. And this is when, and see, this clock hand never can go back. It can't go back. It can only go this way. It only goes this way, as does life. It only goes this way, forward. In this period, this place between 6 and 12, that's when you start coming back to yourself. That's what enlightenment is. That's the pathway to enlightenment. When you send out that stuff that is destroying you, that is killing you in one way or another, and you move yourself back over here, and eventually you get yourself all the way back. This is the light over here. This is the place where you can't go back. You'd be tempted. You might be tempted to steal. You might be tempted to use anger. You might even slip a little bit, and you catch yourself. I can just not too long ago there was we got a problem with our sprinkler in my home. One of the sprinkler heads is off, and if you ever seen that happen, you get a gusher going up there. And I've been wanting to get that thing replaced for the longest time. And I'm walking out of the bank, and there's a sprinkler head right there in front of the bank. Now, I practically own this bank. Okay? So I'm going to go there every day, and I do a lot of business with this bank. And I'm looking at this sprinkler head, and I think, all I have to do is just unscrew this thing. It wasn't on or anything. They'll replace it tomorrow morning. It's 98 cents or whatever. So I actually get down there, and I start turning the sprinkler. And then I start thinking, do I want this karma? Do I want to steal? Do I want to take? I know it's only a 99, and if I went into the bank, they'd probably give me one anyway if I asked them. And then I just turned it back, and I said, if I want a sprinkler head, I'll go and buy one for myself. This doesn't belong to me. It was just like a split second of weakness there or whatever it was. But it illustrated to me that I can't go back there. I could never. And there was a time in my life when I could have done that. I can be absolutely frank with that. I could do that. I can't go back there anymore. That's where you start. That's the place to start. Because when you get all of that out, when that's all gone, and I mean gone, and it only comes about as a result of the way that you think, so it's just changing around your approach to life, the way that you think in life, when that starts to go away, what you've become filled up with is what your natural self is, which is this loving, accepting, not fighting the universe, but instead living in it and going with the flow and all of the kinds of cliches that you've heard 1,000 times. That's the metaphor there. And you see, every time you try to go back, can't do it. You can't do it.
So you see, there's two ways to look at virtually anything. One is the violent way and one is the peaceful way. That's the yin and the yang of the universe. The violent way is to analyze something. When you take something and analyze it, you tear it apart. You break it open, you crush it, you dissect it, you pull it all apart and see what's in it. So that's what people do with a relationship. Analyzing is a very violent intellectual act, if you've never thought of that, and it's a victimizing stance. It's violent intellectually in that it tears apart. Now, the opposite of analyzing something is synthesizing, that is, bringing together, looking at what holds it together. What are the similarities? What is it that we have in common here? And how much do we enjoy each other? What are we for? If you're in a relationship and you understand that what you think about is what expands, or as you think, so shall you be, is true, and you're thinking about what is wrong or what is missing in your partner, then for you, your experience of them will be what is missing or what is wrong, because what you think about is what expands. So what you want to do is get focused in your relationships on what you are for. What do you like about that person? And observe that. Unless you want the negativity to expand, then focus your mind on that, because whatever your mind is on will be your experience of them. You can't get behind your eyeballs and be that person and be your spouse. You only have your mind to experience your spouse with. And if your mind is on what's wrong, then that's what will be your experience. If your mind is on what's missing, on what you don't like, then that will be your experience. And that's what analyzing a relationship almost always is about. You do this, and I don't like that, and this is wrong, and then that becomes your experience on it. When I look at my wife after being gone on a business trip or whatever, I look at the divineness that is in back of her form. I look at the thoughts, the beauty that is in the invisible part of her, and I'm just grateful that she's there, rather than thinking about all the things that she's done that I don't like or that we argued about or whatever. I don't want that to continue to expand. And so I don't want to analyze our relationship. I just want to love her and be loved for what we are. Because, as Robert Frost said, you love the things you love for what they are. Not for what they ought to be or what they used to be or what they can do for you, but for what they are. When you fall in love with someone, you fall in love with what they are. You don't look in their eyes and say, you know, you're really beautiful, but if only your eyes were a different color, then I could like you so much better. Or if only you were a little taller, or a little shorter, or your hair were a little this or that. You don't do that. You just go, you're just so gaga in love because you are loving what they are. And then you get into a relationship and mature the relationship, and now your mature relationship is, you know, you should have done this, and if only you did that, and that's what destroys it. What you want to do is maintain that, I love you for what you are. And we don't have to analyze it. When you're falling in love, you don't analyze anything. You just simply enjoy being with each other. Arguing isn't worth defending. I know that people do it. I do it sometimes. I see it as a weakness when I do it. It is not worth defending. Usually the person doing the most talking in the argument is the one who's wrong, who is trying to overstate their case. And I just was reminded of a cartoon that was in the New Yorker, where a fellow said, I'll tell you why I'm yelling. I'll tell you why I'm yelling. I'm yelling because I'm wrong. And it's that kind of admission that you finally realize right in the middle of it that, yeah, I'm raising my voice because I don't know what else to do. And I've just realized that I've been arguing isn't worth defending. Arguing really is saying, you know, if only you were more like me, then I could like you much better. That's behind almost every argument that we have. If only you could process the world the way I process it, we wouldn't be having any of these problems.
And here's the toughest test for non-attachment. I leave you free to be yourself, to think your thoughts, indulge your tastes, follow your inclination, behave in ways that you decide are to your liking. How's that for a challenge? And so what most of us do in our relationships, and why they are not as successful as we would like them to be, is that we become attached, and we tell ourselves that if this person behaves in a way that I find offensive, then I can't be happy. I make my happiness, my fulfillment dependent upon those people that I love being what I think that they should be. And detachment doesn't mean being a victim. It just simply means I know that I can make my life fulfilled and happy by having a mind that is open to everything and attached nowhere.
I don't know if you've ever noticed in your life, but when you are inspired in your life, when you're truly inspired in your life, everything seems to be working. For me, when I am inspired, it is with my writing and my speaking. When you are inspired, very often you are making love to the person that you adore. When you are inspired, very often you might be painting, you might be creating music, you might be cooking up something that you've never cooked up before, you might be in a dream, you might be listening to music. Whatever it is, when you feel inspired, you're not thinking about what's missing, you're not thinking about whether or not you have enough money to do what you want to do. The money seems to take care of itself. You don't think about any of your ills, any of your pains, any of your struggles. That's all, for the moment of your inspiration, those things are all gone from your life. And why is that so? Why does the moment of your inspiration seem to be devoid of all of the ego-centered kinds of things about your self-absorption and your fears and your doubts, and you're not having enough money, and you got pains, and you got all of these things? Why is that? Because the word inspire really comes from the concept of inspiration. To be inspired means to be in spirit. And when you are in spirit, you have transcended the physical side of you. And meditation puts you in spirit. It takes you out of the world of the physical and all of the ailments and all of the struggles and all of the fears and all of the doubts and all of the anxieties, and it puts you in spirit. And when you are in spirit on purpose, everything is working. Everything is working. I remember the story of Sir Laurence Olivier, who had given one of the greatest performances of Hamlet that had ever been given in history, someplace in, I think it was at Oxford in England. And they had given him a 20-minute standing ovation, and it was this rousing thing, and he went back to his dressing room, and one of his friends came into the room and said, "That was fabulous. There's never been an interpretation of Hamlet like that." And Sir Laurence Olivier said, "Don't you think I know that?" And he was very upset. And his friend said, "How could you possibly be upset? after that, giving that great performance. And his response was, but I don't know how I did it and if I can ever do it again. And that's almost the inner kind of energy that drives us. When we get inspired, we know there's something else working. We know something else is there with us, supporting us, guiding us, helping us. Somehow we know we're not doing this thing alone, as I know right now as I'm speaking. Many of the examples, the stories, the things that have come out in this live presentation, I had no idea that I would be using or saying when I came up here. And yet, when you get inspired, when you get in spirit, you're not alone. And what we want to learn to do is to have a picturing process in our minds that is consistent with our desire to be inspired as frequently as we possibly can, to have that sense of being in spirit. And meditation allows us to do this. When you are able to be inspired, what you want to then begin to do is to be alert for the first sprouting of seeds of your manifestation. You want to be looking but not demanding. You want to be observing and noticing but not insisting. It's like almost playing this game with your ego. With the ego part of you says, yeah, I want it now. And your higher self says, you just want to be at peace. But look around. And as you see it, you begin to tune into the cues. The reason that this process works is because this divine intelligence that is endless, that is inexhaustible, will cooperate with you when your pictures come from in spirit. It will cooperate with you. It always has. It's what sustains you. It's what allows you to breathe. It's what allows you to think and process and listen. It will cooperate.
Quote, "We are all teachers, and what we teach is what we learn. And so we teach it over and over again until we learn." Unquote. That's from A Course in Miracles. And also, quote, "The real purpose of teachers, books, and teachings is to lead us back to the kingdom of God within ourselves." Joel Goldsmith. Just as we're all students throughout life, we're all teachers. In fact, we learn best by offering what we desire for ourselves to as many individuals as we can, as frequently as we can. And that's one reason I wrote this book and I'm putting together this program. If I instruct enough people for a long enough period of time, I'll teach what I most want to learn, which is how to live in spirit. Following this line of thinking, it's imperative that we make a deliberate effort to increase our inspirational energy, as this will lead us to being both a spiritual learner and teacher simultaneously. Spiritual teachers have raised the vibrational frequency of their daily life to a point where they're able to provide inspiration to others merely by their presence, and this is the standard to which we need to aspire. It isn't necessarily a scholarly undertaking. There are no lesson plans or report cards for this kind of teaching I'm writing about in these pages and that I'm speaking about here in this program. Rather, I'm talking about the things we can do each and every day to inspire our fellow humans. Kindness inspires others. One simple act of kindness and service that's in alignment with our source will do more to inspire others than lectures on the virtues of being a thoughtful citizen ever could. We can also be on the lookout for opportunities to be a source of inspiration. For example, when I board an airplane, I tend to look for the chance to extend some sort of service to strangers. I put the word strangers in quotations in the book to emphasize there aren't actually any strangers anywhere in the universe. Helping vertically challenged passengers place their carry-on luggage in the overhead compartment is perfect because others noticing this kind of kindness may be inspired while at the same time I'm heeding my own calling to be both inspired and inspiring. Gratitude inspires others. Without exception, I begin every day of my life with an expression of gratitude. As I look in the mirror to begin my daily ritual of shaving, I say, "Thank you, God, for life, for my body, for my family and loved ones, for this day, and for the opportunity to be of service. Thank you, thank you, thank you." If we practice gratitude as opposed to maintaining an attitude of entitlement,
we'll automatically extend inspiration wherever we go. Being grateful helps remove the influence of our ego, which is certain that we're better than everybody else. An attitude of gratitude allows us to adopt what's called radical humility, a trait that's very persuasive in helping others feel inspired. Most of the people I've met or observed who are at the top levels in their chosen fields have these attitudes of gratitude and radical humility. After all, when so many high achievers reach for their statuette or championship trophy, they often say, "First, I'd like to thank God." It's almost as if they can't help themselves. They're so grateful for their accolade, but even more than that, they know that there's a force in the universe way bigger than they are that allows them to act or sing or write or compete or design. And if we adopt this kind of an attitude, we'll inspire others. It's that simple. Generosity inspires others. It doesn't matter if we call it God, Krishna, Atman, Allah, the universal mind, Ra, Yahweh, or even Anna or Fred. I think we'd all agree that the all-creating source of everything is the most generous being there is. Along with life itself, it offers us unending abundance in the form of air, water, lungs, heart, kidney, liver, and all we need to sustain life. On just this one tiny planet hurtling through space, whatever name we want to call it, it provides the ability to feed all of us and dispose of all of our waste, which then gets used to fertilize new life and then repeats the process over and over and over again. And remember, this is only one planet in an endless universe of heavenly bodies. Talk about benevolence. Generosity is obviously one of the ways to be more godlike. I know that I'm inspired when I see evidence of it on the part of others. Very often it's manifested during or following times of crisis, almost as if God gets our attention and reminds us to be more like Him when we face devastating circumstances. A tsunami diverts our aircraft carriers away from killing each other and into a zone where food and shelter are offered. An earthquake motivates us to risk our own lives to save strangers who days before were called enemies. And hurricanes bring out the best in us. Such so-called disasters lead us to the inherent godlike generosity that's latent within all of us. However, we don't need a crisis to remind ourselves to give. We only need to be in spirit to be reminded of the joy of donating our energy, time, and possessions to others. Listening inspires others. As ironic as it may sound, we're far more inspiring to others when we're willing to listen than when we're giving them advice. That's because conveying to others that we value what they have to say is a way of demonstrating that we care. It's a way of being inspiring, a way of listening like God. People who find it difficult to listen to another person without bringing the conversation back to themselves are convinced by their ego of their self-importance. And as you're well aware by now, that ego is an illusion that's convinced us to pay attention to a false self. There's no higher compliment than to be told we're a good listener. Everyone loves a good listener, largely because it makes them feel loved, cared for, and worthy of being heard. When we leave any encounter where we feel we've been heard, even if we know the listener strongly disagreed with us, we're still inspired. Why? Because for a few moments the listener has emulated what it feels like when we pray. In deep prayer, we're not looking for the resolution of conflict or answers falling from the sky. We just want to feel as if we're in contact with someone who cares enough to hear us out. This brings to mind something Mahatma Gandhi, one of the truly inspirational beings of our time, once said, "Silence of the sewn-up lips is no silence. One may achieve the same result by chopping off one's tongue, but that would not be silence. He is truly silent who, having the capacity to speak, utters no idle word." In addition, these words from Ralph Waldo Emerson have always reminded me to be a listener. "I like the silent church before the service begins better than the preaching," he said. This is great advice if we wish to be a source of inspiration. Below are 10 ways to practice fulfilling your intention to live your life on purpose from this day forward. Step 1. Affirm that in an intelligent system, no one shows up by accident, including you. Know that you are here on purpose. This is not the same as knowing what you're supposed to do. Throughout your life, what you do will change and shift. In fact, the changes can occur from hour to hour in each day of your life. Your purpose is not about what you do. It's about your beingness, that place within you from which your thoughts emerge. This is why you're called a human being rather than a human doing. Affirm in your own words, both in writing and in your thoughts, that you are here on purpose and intend to live from this awareness at all times. Step 2. Seize every opportunity, no matter how small, to give your life away in service. Get your ego out of your intention to live a life on purpose. Whatever it is that you want to do in life, make the primary motivation for your effort something or somebody other than your desire for gratification or reward. Do it from the perspective of making a difference for someone or for some cause, and let the universe handle the details of your personal rewards. Live your purpose, doing what you do with pure love. Then you'll co-create with the power of this universal mind of intention, which is ultimately responsible for all of creation. Step 3. Align your purpose with the field of intention. This is the most important thing you can do to fulfill your intentions. Being aligned with the universal field means having faith that your Creator knows why you're here, even if you don't. It means surrendering the little mind to the big mind and remembering that your purpose will be revealed in the same way that you were revealed. Keep this connection pure, and you'll be guided in all of your actions. The universe will respond with the identical energy by asking you, "How may I serve you?" Step 4. Ignore what anyone else tells you about your purpose. Regardless of what anyone might say to you, the truth about your feeling purposeful is that only you can know it. And if you don't feel it in that inner place where a burning desire resides, it isn't your purpose. Your purpose is between you and your source. And the closer you get to what that field of intention looks and acts like, the more you'll know that you're being purposefully guided. You might have zero measurable aptitudes and skills in a given area, yet you might feel inwardly drawn to doing it. Forget the aptitude test results. Forget the absence of skills or know-how. And most important, ignore the opinions of others and listen to your heart. Step 5. Remember that the all-creating field of intention will work on your behalf. Albert Einstein is credited with saying that the most important decision we ever make is whether we believe in a friendly universe or a hostile universe. It's imperative that you know that the all-creating field of intention is friendly and will work with you as long as you see it that way. Know that the universe is always willing to work with you on your behalf, and that you're always in a friendly rather than a hostile world. Step 6. Study and replicate the lives of people who've known their purpose. I've always been fascinated by Saul of Tarsus, later called St. Paul, whose letters and teachings became the source of a major portion of the New Testament. I was also deeply touched by the purposeful manner in which St. Francis of Assisi lived his life as exemplified in the novel St. Francis by Nikos Kazantzakis. I make it a point to use my free time to read about people who are models for purposeful living, and I encourage you here to do the same. Step 7. Act as if you're living the life you were intended to live, even if you feel confused about this thing called purpose. Invite into your life every day whatever it might be that makes you feel closer to God and brings you a sense of joy. View the events you consider obstacles as perfect opportunities to test your resolve and find your purpose. Treat everything from a broken fingernail to an illness, to the loss of a job, to a geographical move, as an opportunity to get away from your familiar routine and move to purpose. By acting as if you're on purpose and treating the hurdles as friendly reminders to trust in what you feel deeply within you, you'll be fulfilling your own intention to be purposeful yourself. Step 8. Meditate to stay on purpose. Use the technique of japa, which I mentioned earlier, and focus your inner attention on asking your source to guide you in fulfilling your destiny. Many people have written to me about their success with staying on purpose through the practice of japa meditation. I'm deeply touched when I read about those who use japa, or the repetition of the sound of the name of God, to help them achieve their divine mission. Step 9. Keep your thoughts and feelings in harmony with your actions. The surest way to realize your purpose is to eliminate any conflict or dissonance that exists between what you're thinking and feeling and how you're living your days. If you're in disharmony, you activate ego-dominated attitudes of fear of failure or disappointing others, which distance you from your purpose. Your actions need to be in harmony with your thoughts. Trust in those thoughts, which harmonize, and be willing to act upon them. Refuse to see yourself as inauthentic or cowardly, because those thoughts will keep you from acting on what you know you are meant to be. Being in harmony with God's will is the highest state of purpose you can attain. And as always, step 10, stay in a state of gratitude. Be thankful for even being able to contemplate your purpose. Be thankful for the wonderful gift of being able to serve humanity, your planet, and your God. Be thankful for the seeming roadblocks to your purpose. See all of the jobs, successes, apparent failures, possessions, losses, wins, everything from a perspective of gratitude. Be grateful for the opportunity to live your life purposefully, in tune with the will of the source of all. That's a lot to be grateful for. It seems to me that searching for our purpose is like searching for happiness. There is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way. And so it is with living your life on purpose. It's not something you'll find. It's how you live your life serving others and bringing purpose to everything you do. When you're living your life from purpose, you're dwelling in love. When you're not dwelling in love, you're off purpose. Making your intention your reality. What follows is my 10-step program for putting this intention to appreciate and express the genius within you to work in your everyday life. Step 1. Declare yourself to be a genius. This shouldn't be a public pronouncement, but a statement of intention between you and your Creator. Remind yourself that you're one of the masterpieces that emanated from the universal field of intention. You don't have to prove that you're a genius, nor do you need to compare any of your accomplishments to those of others. You have a unique gift to offer this world, and you are unique in the entire history of creation. Step 2. Make a decision to listen more carefully to your inner insights, no matter how small or insignificant you may have previously judged them to be. The thoughts which you may have viewed as silly or unworthy of attention are your private connection to the field of intention. Thoughts that seem to persist, particularly if they relate to new activities and adventures, aren't in your mind accidentally. Those tenacious thoughts that don't go away should be viewed by you as intention talking to you. You signed up to express your unique brilliance, so why do you keep ignoring the genius in favor of settling for less? Step 3. Take constructive action toward implementing your inner intuitive inclinations. Any step in the direction of expressing your creative impulses is a step in the direction of actualizing the genius that resides within you. For example, writing and submitting a book outline, regardless of how you may have doubted yourself up until now, recording a CD of yourself reading poetry or singing the songs you've written, purchasing an easel and art paraphernalia and spending an afternoon painting, or visiting an expert in the field that interests you. Step 4. Know that any and all thoughts that you have regarding your own skills, interests, and inclinations are valid. To reinforce the validity of your thoughts, keep them private. Tell yourself that they're between you and God. If you keep them in the spiritual domain, you don't have to introduce them to your ego or expose them to the egos of those around you. This means that you'll never have to compromise them by explaining and defending them to others. Step 5. Remind yourself that aligning with spiritual energy is how you will find and convey the genius within you. Shift your energy to harmonize vibrationally with the energy of Source. Be an appreciator of life and refuse to have thoughts of hatred, anxiety, anger, and judgment. Trust yourself as a piece of God, and your genius will flourish. Step 6. Practice radical humility. Take no credit for your talents, intellectual abilities, aptitudes, or proficiencies. Be in a state of awe and bewilderment. Even as I sit with my pen in my hand, observing how words appear before me, I'm in a state of bewilderment. Where do these words come from? Is this really Wayne Dyer writing, or am I watching Wayne Dyer put these words on the paper? Is God writing this book through me? Was I intended to be this messenger before I showed up here as a baby on the 10th of May in 1940? Will these words live beyond my lifetime? I'm bewildered by it all. I'm humble in my inability to know where any of my accomplishments come from. Practice radical humility and give credit everywhere except to your ego. Step 7. Remove resistance to actualizing your genius. Resistance always shows up in the form of your thoughts. Watch for thoughts that convey your inability to think of yourself in genius terms, thoughts of doubt about your abilities, or thoughts that reinforce what you've been taught about a lack of talent or lack of aptitude, all of these kinds of thoughts are a misalignment and don't allow you to be in vibrational harmony with the universal, all-creating field of intention. Your source knows that you're a genius. Any thought you have that challenges this notion is resistance, which will inhibit you from realizing this intention. Step 8. Look for the genius in others. Pay attention to the greatness you observe in as many people as possible, and if you don't see it at first, then spend some mental energy looking for it. The more you're inclined to think in genius terms, the more natural it becomes for you to apply the same standards to yourself. Step 9. Simplify your life. Take the complications, rules, shoulds, musts, have-tos, and so on out of your life. By uncomplicating your life and removing the trivial pursuits that occupy so much of it, you open a channel for the genius within you to emerge. One of the most effective techniques for simplifying life is to take time each day to spend 20 or so minutes in silence and meditation. The more conscious contact you make with your source, the more you come to appreciate your own highest self. And it's from this highest self that your own genius will be manifested. Step 10. Remain humble while staying in a state of gratitude. Remain humble and grateful, and more of your genius will surface as you remain in a constant state of expansion. Gratitude is a sacred space where you allow and know that a force greater than your ego is always at work and always available. The man who inspires me every day, Ralph Waldo Emerson, whose photograph looks back at me as I write, put it this way: to believe your own thoughts, to believe that what is true for you in your private heart is true for all men. That is genius, unquote. Take this awareness and apply it in your life. Becoming a spiritual being is synonymous with being a miracle worker and knowing the bliss of real magic. The differences between people who are non-spiritual or physical-only beings and those that I call spiritual beings are dramatic. I use the terms spiritual and non-spiritual in the sense that a spiritual being has a conscious awareness both of the physical and the invisible dimension, while the non-spiritual being is only aware of the physical domain. Here are 12 beliefs and practices for you to cultivate as you develop your abilities to manifest miracles in your life. Number 1. A spiritual being knows that there are other senses beyond the 5 physical senses. The non-spiritual being lives exclusively within the 5 senses, believing that if you cannot see, touch, smell, hear, or taste it, then it simply doesn't exist. As you work toward becoming a spiritual being as well as a physical being, you begin to live more and more consciously within the invisible realm. Hence, a whole new world opens up. Number 2. The non-spiritual being believes we are alone in the universe. The spiritual being knows he or she is never alone. A spiritual being is comfortable with the idea of having teachers, observers, and divine guidance available at any time. For the non-spiritual being, this is all hogwash. This is a physical-only universe to the non-spiritual being, and the goal is to manipulate and control the physical world in any way that we can. Spiritual beings know that they are not alone, and that they can use their own divine guidance to become miracle makers in their own lives. Number 3. The non-spiritual being is focused on external power. The spiritual being is focused on personal empowerment. External power is all located in the dominance of and control over the physical world. This is the power of war and military might, the power of laws and organization, the power of business and stock market games. By contrast, the spiritual being is focused on empowering himself and others to higher and higher levels of consciousness and achievement. It is true empowerment to know that one can live in the world with others who have different points of view and have no need to control or vanquish them as victims. Once you no longer need to dominate others, to acquire more stuff, or to control the environment around you, you will have shifted your focus from external power to personal empowerment. Number 4. The non-spiritual being feels separated and distinct from all others, a being unto himself. The spiritual being knows that he is connected to all others and lives his life as if each person he meets shares being human with him. When a person feels himself to be separate from all others, he becomes more self-centered and much less concerned about the problems of others. The spiritual being knows that we are all connected and is able to see the fullness of God in each person with whom he makes contact in his life. Being connected means that the need for conflict and confrontation is eliminated. Number 5. The non-spiritual being believes exclusively in a cause-effect interpretation of life. The spiritual being knows that there is a higher power working in the universe beyond mere cause and effect. The non-spiritual being lives exclusively in the world of the physical, where cause and effect rules. The spiritual being goes beyond Newton's physics and lives in an entirely different realm. The spiritual being knows that thoughts come out of nothingness, and then in our dream state, when we are in pure thought, cause and effect play no role whatsoever. Number 6. The non-spiritual being is motivated in life by achievement, performance, and acquisitions. The spiritual being is motivated by ethics, serenity, and quality of life. For the non-spiritual being, the focus is on learning for the purpose of high grades, getting ahead, and acquiring possessions. For the spiritual being, success is defined by aligning oneself with one's purpose. The spiritual being knows that living purposefully involves serving in a loving fashion. While the spiritual being will achieve and perform at high levels and even acquire many possessions, it is not the end-all principle that guides his life. Number 7. The non-spiritual being has no place for the practice of meditation. The spiritual being cannot imagine life without it. For the non-spiritual being, answers are sought by working hard, struggling, persevering, setting goals, and in competing in a dog-eat-dog world. The spiritual being knows the enormous power of the practices of meditation. He knows that meditation makes him more alert and able to think more clearly. For the non-spiritual being, this is perceived as an escape from reality. But for the spiritual being, it is an introduction to a whole new reality that includes an opening in your life that will lead you to miracle making. Number 8. For the non-spiritual being, the concept of intuition can be reduced to a bunch of haphazard thoughts. For the spiritual being, intuition is viewed as guidance, and this inner insight is never taken lightly or ignored. You know from your own experience that when you ignore your intuitive proddings, you end up being sorry or having a hard lesson show up in your life. To the non-spiritual person, intuition is often ignored or shunned in favor of behaving in habitual ways. The spiritual being strives to increase consciousness concerning their intuition. They pay attention to their invisible messages and know deep within that there is something working here that is much more than a coincidence. Number 9. The non-spiritual being hates evil and is determined to eradicate that which he believes to be evil. The spiritual being knows that everything that he hates and fights weakens him, and all that he is for empowers him. The non-spiritual being knows what he hates, and much of his energy, both mental and physical, is devoted to fighting what he perceives to be bad or evil. Spiritual beings do not order their lives to be against anything. They work for what they are for, rather than fighting what they are against. When you fight evil by employing the methods of hatred and violence, you yourself become a part of the hatred and violence of evil itself, despite the rightness of your position in your own mind. Real magic occurs in your life when you have eliminated the hatred that is in your life, even the hatred that you have against hatred. Number 10. The non-spiritual person feels no sense of responsibility to the universe. Therefore, he has not developed a reverence for life. The spiritual being has a reverence for life that goes to the essence of all beings. The spiritual being behaves as if the God in all life mattered, and he feels a sense of responsibility to the universe. Miracle-making capability comes out of a strong reverence for all life, including your own, and therefore, in order to know real magic, you must learn to think and act in ways consistent with being a reverent spiritual being. Number 11. The non-spiritual being finds himself laden down with grudges, hostility, and the need for revenge. The spiritual being has no room in his heart for such impediments to miracle-making and real magic. The spiritual being knows that all spiritual masters have talked about the importance of forgiveness. Forgiveness is an act of the heart. If you fill your inner invisible self with bitterness and revenge toward others, you'll leave no room for the harmony and love that are necessary in order for you to experience real magic in your life. And finally, number 12. The non-spiritual being knows that there are real-world limitations, and that while there may be some evidence that miracles exist, they are viewed as random happenings for a few fortunate others. The spiritual being believes in miracles and his own unique ability to receive loving guidance and to experience a world of real magic.